The day I met Captain Mira Kellsen was the day I stopped believing in the superiority of my species. You have to understand something about the Vorgathi. We controlled 17 star systems. Our military academies were 1,000 years old when your ancestors were still figuring out fire. We had never, not once in our entire recorded history, lost a war. So when the Council of Elders decided to expand into the Sol system, we expected the usual progression. Show up, demonstrate power, accept surrender, move on. The humans would be protectors, maybe even allies eventually. That was the plan. Simple, clean, efficient. I was second Scholar Creeks at the time, assigned to the flagship Eternal Dominion as a cultural observer. My job was to study the natives, document their customs, and prepare integration protocols. I thought it would be boring. I thought I would spend most of my time cataloging primitive art and religious rituals. I was wrong about everything. The first Earth vessel we encountered was a cargo hauler called the Meridian Dawn. It was hauling frozen goods between Earth and Mars, completely unarmed, staffed by a crew of 6. When our battle cruiser dropped out of hyperspace directly in its path, I expected panic, begging maybe. The captain of that hauler, a man named Victor something, he just sighed into the comms like we were a traffic delay. "Let me guess," he said, voice dripping with exhaustion. "You're here to conquer us? Enlighten us, or eat us? Which is it today?" Commander Thax, who was leading the intercept, actually hesitated. You have to understand, in 300 years of military service, Thax had never hesitated, not once. "We are the Vorgathi Empire," Thax announced, recovering his composure. "You will power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in destruction."
Sure,
Victor replied. "But can you make it quick? I've got 200 tons of ice cream melting in the hold, and if it goes bad I don't get paid. You folks have any idea what unemployment looks like on Earth right now? It's brutal." Thax muted the comm and looked at me. "Is this normal human behavior?" I checked my data pad. "I don't know, Commander. We've only been observing them for 6 months. They're either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid," Thax muttered. Turns out, they were neither. They were just tired. Tired of being the newest species in the galaxy. Tired of being underestimated. Tired of everyone assuming they were easy prey. We boarded the Meridian Dawn. Victor and his crew didn't fight. They sat in their galley drinking something called coffee and playing cards. When Thax demanded to speak with Earth's government, Victor just laughed. "Which one?" he asked. "We've got about 200 of them, give or take. Good luck getting them to agree on anything. Last month they spent 6 weeks arguing about whether a hot dog was a sandwich. I'm not even joking. Thax arrested them anyway, took the ship, sent a message to Earth demanding immediate surrender. Earth's response arrived 3 hours later.
It was a middle finger.
Literally, someone had transmitted a high-definition image of a hand with the middle finger extended. No text, no explanation, just that. The Council was furious. They authorized a full-scale invasion. That was when everything went wrong. The invasion fleet consisted of 47 capital ships, each one capable of glassing a continent. We had shock troopers, orbital bombardment platforms, psionic suppressors, the works. We jumped into Earth's orbit expecting maybe a few hours of token resistance before the surrender. Instead, we got Mira Kellsen. She was commanding a ship called the Defiant Horizon, one of Earth's experimental destroyers. It was small, maybe a tenth the size of our cruisers, and it looked like someone had built it in a garage using spare parts and pure spite. Half the hull was mismatched plating. The engines glowed an unhealthy shade of blue. The weapon ports were asymmetrical. It was the ugliest ship I had ever seen. It was also the most dangerous. The Defiant Horizon came screaming out of Earth's shadow at speeds that should have torn it apart. It wasn't following any recognizable tactical doctrine. It wasn't even trying to avoid fire. It was just, well, attacking. Like a rabid animal that had forgotten fear was an option. Commander Thax ordered 3 cruisers to intercept. They opened fire with plasma cannons that could melt asteroids. The Defiant Horizon dodged. Not with fancy maneuvering or advanced shielding. It just jerked sideways at the last possible second, like someone had yanked the controls in a random direction. "What kind of pilot does that?" Thax demanded. I pulled up the ship's registry. According to Earth's military database, the captain is Mira Kellsen.
Age 32, former cargo pilot,
No formal military training. She apparently joined the Defense Force 3 months ago, because, and I quote, I was bored and the pay was decent. Hulthax stared at me. A cargo pilot? Yes, Commander. With no training? Correct. That's who they sent to fight us? Before I could answer, the Defiant Horizon launched something that wasn't on any of our threat assessment lists. It looked like a missile, but it was moving wrong, wobbling, spinning. It should have missed by kilometers. It didn't miss. The missile hit the first cruiser's shield generator and exploded in a burst of electromagnetic chaos. The shields went down. The cruiser's systems started failing. Lights flickered. Engines sputtered. The entire ship went dark. The entire ship went dark. The entire ship went dark. What was that? Dake shouted. I was scanning the debris. It appears to be, I can't believe I'm saying this, a modified mining charge packed with scrap electronics and what looks like a homemade EMP device. Commander, they built that weapon out of junk. The second cruiser fired a spread of missiles. 12 warheads, each one guided by an AI that had never missed a target. The Defiant Horizon spun through them like it was dancing. One missile actually clipped its port side, tearing off a chunk of armor. The ship kept going. Didn't even slow down. Then Mira Kellsen's voice came over the open channel. She sounded like she was enjoying herself. Hey there, big fancy space empire, she said. Quick question. Do you folks know what a Terran special is? The Sax looked at me. I shook my head. Not in any database, Commander. Well, Mira continued, let me show you. The Defiant Horizon accelerated directly at the second cruiser. For a moment, I thought she was going to ram it. Suicide tactics weren't uncommon among desperate species, but at the last second, her ship twisted, fired its main engines at full burn, and used the exhaust wash to blind every sensor on the cruiser's forward hull. While the cruiser was effectively blind, the Defiant Horizon fired a spread of kinetic rounds, old-fashioned bullets, straight into the exposed engine ports. The cruiser exploded. Not a clean military explosion. A messy, catastrophic failure that sent debris spinning into 3 other ships. That's a Terran special, Mira announced. Patent pending. The fleet was in chaos. Captains were demanding orders. Derex was frozen, staring at the tactical display like it had personally betrayed him. I was frantically updating my cultural assessment because nothing, absolutely nothing in our intelligence reports suggested humans were capable of this. One of our captains, a veteran named Sarks, decided to take matters into his own hands. He maneuvered his dreadnought, the crushing fist, into position and powered up the main cannon. It was a weapon that could crack a moon, overkill for one small destroyer. But Sarks was done taking chances. Target locked, Sarks reported. Firing in 3-2. He never got to one. The Defiant Horizon launched a pod. Hold, not a weapon, a pod. It tumbled through space, broadcasting a distress signal on every frequency. Sarks, bound by the ancient laws of space combat that even the Vorgathi respected, hesitated. You don't fire on distress signals. It's the one universal rule. That hesitation cost him everything. The pod exploded, auto-rate, not with fire or shrapnel. It released thousands of tiny ball bearings, each one coated in reflective material. They spread out in a cloud, and suddenly every targeting system in the fleet was seeing 1,000 false contacts. Radar was useless. LiDAR was useless. Even thermal imaging couldn't cut through the noise. Clever, I whispered. Mira Kellsen didn't wait. She fired every weapon her ship had.
All real missiles this time, aimed at the crushing fist's bridge.
Sareks tried to activate point defense, but his systems were still sorting through the false contacts. 3 missiles got through. The bridge erupted in flames. Sark survived, barely, but his ship was crippled. That was when Tax finally unfroze. All ships fall back to defensive positions. Now, too late. 6 more Earth ships appeared, each one as ugly and improvised as the Defiant Horizon. They weren't following formation. They weren't coordinating. They were just attacking. Each captain, apparently making things up as they went along. And it was working. One ship fired harpoons. Actual harpoons, like something from an ancient whaling vessel. They punched through shields because our shields were designed to stop energy weapons and explosives, not giant metal spears. Another ship released what looked like a cloud of glitter. It was thermite. It burned through hull plating like acid. A third ship just rammed one of our frigates and kept going, its hull somehow intact while the frigate broke apart. They're insane, Thak said, his voice barely a whisper. I was watching Mira Kelsen's ship on the display. She was laughing. I could hear it over the comms. She was actually laughing. This is amazing, she shouted. I mean, you guys are supposed to be the big bad empire, right? Where's the challenge? Come on, give me something interesting. One of our captains, younger and more aggressive, took the bait. He sent his ship charging at the defiant horizon, weapons blazing. Mira waited until he was committed. Then she did something I still don't fully understand. She shut down her engines, fired her maneuvering thrusters in a pattern that shouldn't have worked, and her ship flipped end over end while maintaining its trajectory. The enemy shots sailed past her. Then she reignited her engines and fired straight down the attacking ship's throat. It was dead before the captain realized what happened. Thak slammed his fist on the console. Retreat. Full retreat. All ships back to hyperspace coordinates. The fleet scattered. We left behind 7 destroyed ships, 12 crippled ones, and our pride, Hearth, had maybe a dozen combat vessels total. We had 47 capital ships, and they had beaten us. As we jumped to hyperspace, the last thing I heard was Mira Kelsen's voice. Hey, where are you going? We were just getting started. Back at the fleet staging area, the Council of Elders convened an emergency session. They wanted answers. Thax gave them a full report which they immediately rejected as impossible. A cargo pilot? Elder Vorn demanded. You're telling me a cargo pilot with no formal training destroyed 7 ships? Yes, Elder, Thax said. Impossible. Your sensors must have malfunctioned. With respect, Elder, I watched it happen. We all did. Elder Vorn's face turned a deep shade of purple which for Vorgathi signals extreme anger. Then your tactics were flawed. We will send a larger fleet. Better commanders. We will crush these humans and make an example of them. I raised my hand, something junior scholars are not supposed to do during council sessions. Elder, if I may. What is it, second scholar? I recommend we do not engage Earth again, at least not militarily. The entire chamber went silent, suggesting retreat is about half a step below treason in Vorgathi culture. Explain yourself, Vorn said coldly. I pulled up the footage I had recorded.
Humans are not following standard combat doctrine, because they do not have standard combat doctrine.
They're improvising.
Every engagement is different. Every tactic is new.
We can't predict them because they can't predict themselves. And more importantly, they're enjoying it, they're having fun. Fun? Vorn sounded like I had just spoken gibberish. Yes, Elder. Captain Kelsen was laughing during the battle. Laughing. She views this as entertainment, and if there's one thing humans excel at, it's turning everything into a competition. They will keep escalating. They will keep adapting. And they will never, ever surrender. Because to them this isn't about survival. It's about proving they can win. Vorn dismissed my concerns. Superstition and cowardice. We are Vorgathi. We do not lose. 3 weeks later, they sent another fleet, twice as large, better armed, led by Grand Admiral Corvin, the greatest military mind our species had produced in 2 centuries. The humans destroyed them in 4 hours. Mira Kellsen personally disabled Corvin's flagship using a tactic she later described as stupid, dangerous, but also really cool. She flew her ship through the flagship's hangar bay, deployed a bomb on a timer, and flew out the other side before anyone could react. The bomb was homemade, filled with stolen Vorgathi fuel cells. The explosion tore the flagship in half. After that, the council finally listened to me. They asked what I recommended. We leave them alone, I said. We pretend this never happened. We mark Sol system as quarantined and we never speak of it again. That is not the Vorgathi way. Then the Vorgathi way will get us all killed. They didn't like it, but they agreed. We pulled back, signed a non-aggression treaty, gave Earth a wide berth. The official story was that humans weren't worth the resources required to conquer them. The real reason was simpler. Futuristic was simpler. We were afraid, and we were right to be. The treaty lasted exactly 8 months, 3 weeks, and 4 days. Not because we broke it, oh no. We learned our lesson. The problem was that nobody told the Kashari Dominion about Captain Mira Kellsen. The Kashari were our rivals, had been for about 600 years. We maintained a cold peace, mostly because neither side wanted to find out who would actually win a full-scale war when they heard about our humiliating defeat at Earth. They saw opportunity, weakness, a chance to humiliate us further by succeeding where we had failed. The Kashari were different from us. Where Vorgathi relied on overwhelming force and disciplined military doctrine, the Kashari used deception, infiltration, and psychological warfare. They were experts at breaking species from the inside. They would infiltrate governments, turn allies against each other, and watch civilizations collapse without firing a shot. They thought humans would be easy targets. Divided governments, remember? Hundreds of nations that could barely agree on anything. The Kashari saw that as a buffet of opportunities. I tried to warn them. I really did. I sent 3 separate messages to their high command explaining exactly what would happen if they engaged Earth. I included combat footage, tactical analyses, psychological profiles of human behavior. I even included a personal note that said, and I'm quoting myself here, "Please, for the love of all that exists, do not do this. You will regret it." They ignored me. Called me a coward. Said the Vorgathi had gone soft. The Kashari sent their best operative, an infiltrator named Kellsen, to Earth. His mission was simple: pose as a defector from a minor alien species, gain human trust, access their military networks, and sabotage their defense systems from within. He had done this successfully on 14 other worlds. He was a professional, a master of his craft. He lasted 6 days. Want to know what went wrong? Mira Kellsen happened. See, after the Vorgathi retreated, Mira had been promoted. She was now Admiral Kellsen, head of Earth's Unconventional Warfare Division. Yes, they created an entire military division just for her brand of chaos. Her job was to think of new and creative ways to defend Earth from alien threats. She was terrifyingly good at it. When Kellsen arrived on Earth, he followed standard infiltration protocol, landed his ship in a remote area, destroyed it to avoid detection, and made his way to the nearest human settlement. He had forged credentials identifying him as a refugee from the Talric species, who were known to be peaceful and harmless. He walked into a human military checkpoint, expecting to be processed, sheltered, and given limited access to their systems. Instead, he was immediately arrested and thrown into a holding cell. Kellsen was confused.
His disguise was perfect. His credentials were flawless. His story was airtight. How had they detected him?
The answer walked into his cell. 12 hours later, Admiral Mira Kellsen, flanked by 2 guards and carrying a cup of that coffee substance humans seem to live on. "Morning, Cullen," she said cheerfully. "Or is it evening? I honestly lose track. Anyway, how's the cell? Comfortable? We tried to make it nice. Added some cushions and everything." Cullen's blood went cold. She knew his name. His real name. "I don't know what you mean," he said carefully, maintaining his cover. "My name is Torin. I'm a refugee seeking sanctuary from the Kashari Dominion. They destroyed my home world and I barely escaped with my life." Mira took a long sip of her coffee and smiled.
It was not a comforting smile.
"Yeah, see, that's a great story. Really moving. Couple problems though. First, the Talric's homeworld is fine. We checked. Second, you're standing wrong. Talrics have a different skeletal structure. They sort of lean forward when they stand. You're standing like a Kashari. Third, and this is my favorite part, you walked past 7 different security cameras and didn't look at any of them. Normal people glance at cameras. They can't help it. But infiltrators are trained not to, because making eye contact with a camera can mess with facial recognition software. You were too perfect, buddy. That's what gave you away." Krellin said nothing. Professional infiltrators are trained to maintain cover even when compromised. Give away nothing. Admit nothing. Mira sat down on the bench across from him.
Here's the thing, Kellen.
"I don't actually care why you're here. I know why you're here. The Kashari want to sabotage our defenses, turn our nations against each other, maybe start a few wars, watch us destroy ourselves. Standard playbook, right?" "I am not Kashari," Colin insisted. "Sure you're not. Anyway, I've got a proposition for you. You can either sit in this cell and wait for your people to come rescue you, which they won't because you failed and the Kashari don't tolerate failure, or you can work for me." "Work for you?" "Yep. See, I've been thinking. The Kashari are probably not going to be the last aliens who try to infiltrate Earth, so I need someone who knows how infiltration works. Someone who can teach my people how to spot infiltrators. Someone who can help us develop counterintelligence protocols. That someone could be you." Colin laughed. Actually laughed. "You want me to betray my people?" "Oh no," Mira said. "I want you to betray your government. Your people are welcome to join Earth anytime they want. We like immigrants. But your government, the high command that sent you on a suicide mission and will absolutely execute you if you go home empty-handed. Yeah, screw those guys. She was right, of course. He had failed. The Kashari would execute him. He had nothing to lose and potentially everything to gain. So he agreed. Over the next 3 months, Colin helped Earth develop the most paranoid, most effective counterintelligence network in known space. They implemented random security checks, trained personnel to spot behavioral inconsistencies, and created AI systems that could detect micro-expressions that indicated deception. The Kashari sent 11 more infiltrators. Earth caught all of them. Some joined Colin, others were sent back to the Kashari Dominion, in boxes with notes attached that said things like "nice try" and "do better next time." The Kashari High Command was furious.
It had never been embarrassed like this, always.
So they decided to stop playing subtle and go for overwhelming force. If infiltration wouldn't work, invasion would. They assembled the largest fleet in Kashari history, 300 warships, 50,000 troops, enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. They jumped into Earth's orbit expecting to see a primitive defense force and maybe a few dozen ships. Instead, they found a minefield, thousands of mines, each one broadcasting a friendly greeting in multiple languages. The greetings said things like "Welcome to Earth, we hope you enjoy your visit, and please watch your step," and no, seriously, watch your step. The lead Kashari ship ignored the warnings. Arrogance, probably. To the ship triggered a mine. The mine didn't explode. It attached itself to the hull and started broadcasting embarrassing messages on all frequencies. Things like "This ship smells weird," and "The captain of this vessel has never kissed anyone," and "Everyone aboard is compensating for something." It was psychological warfare. The Kashari crew was too busy arguing and fighting each other to focus on the actual battle. Morale collapsed in minutes. That was when Mira Kellsen's fleet arrived. She had 70 ships now, each one more cobbled together and ridiculous looking than the last. One ship was literally painted to look like it had a giant smiley face. Another had the words, "Surprise" written on the hull in letters 3 stories tall. The Kashari opened fire. Standard plasma weapons, proven effective against shields and armor. Except Earth's ships didn't have standard shields. They had something Mira called adaptive randomized defense matrices, which was a fancy way of saying the shields changed frequency and strength randomly so you could never predict where they would be strong or weak. Some shots bounced off harmlessly. Others punched through and hit nothing important because Mira had specifically designed her ships with redundant systems scattered throughout the hull. There was no critical weakness to exploit. The Kashari fleet tried to establish formation, military doctrine, coordinated strikes. Everything by the book. Mira threw the book out the airlock. Her ships attacked from every direction at once. Some flew upside down, others spun while firing. One ship just kept ramming Kashari vessels and somehow surviving because someone had reinforced the hull with stolen Vorgathi armor plating. There was no pattern, no logic, just chaos. Beautiful, effective chaos. The Kashari commander, Admiral Mira, tried to adapt. He split his fleet into smaller groups, hoping to surround and overwhelm individual Earth ships. It almost worked. Almost. Then Mira activated what she called Plan Ridiculous. Every Earth ship simultaneously vented atmosphere, making it look like they had been catastrophically damaged. Life signs flatlined. Power signatures dropped to minimal levels. By every metric, they looked dead in space. The Kashari stopped firing. They actually stopped, because even in war there are rules. You don't shoot ships that are already destroyed. You don't murder helpless survivors. The Kashari moved in to board the ships, planning to take prisoners and salvage technology. The moment they were in range, every Earth ship reignited, Womans powered up, and they fired at point-blank range. It was a massacre. 30 Kashari ships destroyed in less than 2 minutes. Another 50 crippled beyond repair. The rest tried to retreat, but Mira had positioned stealth drones throughout the battlefield. The drones activated, releasing electromagnetic pulses that disabled hyperspace drives. The Kashari fleet was trapped, surrounded, helpless. Admiral Mira opened a channel to Mira. You tricked us. You played dead. That is dishonorable. That is against every rule of warfare." Mercer appeared on screen, still holding her coffee cup. "Yeah, about that. See, humans have this saying, all's fair in love and war. You came to my planet, uninvited, with 300 warships and the intent to conquer or destroy us. You really thought I was going to fight fair. You are savages, barbarians. Maybe, Mira said. All but we're the barbarians who just kicked your entire fleet's ass with 70 ships and a lot of creative thinking. So I'm going to give you two options. Option 1, you surrender right now, and we escort you out of our system with a stern warning never to come back. Option 2, I let my people get creative with your remaining ships, and trust me, they have ideas. Really weird, really disturbing ideas. Thren looked at something off screen. His face went pale, which for Kashari meant turning a sort of grayish-green color. What is that? Oh, that? Mira glanced at her own screen. That's Captain Hayes. He's threatening to board your flagship with nothing but a fire axe and what he calls unresolved childhood issues. I keep telling him that's not appropriate military conduct, but he never listens. So what's it going to be, Admiral? Thren surrendered. The entire Kashari fleet surrendered to a force less than a quarter its size. As the Kashari limped away from Sol System, badly beaten and thoroughly humiliated, I sat in my observation post 3-star systems away and watched the whole thing through long-range sensors. I had been monitoring the situation, hoping the Kashari would somehow succeed where we had failed, hoping humanity would finally meet their match. They hadn't. They wouldn't. I filed my final report with the Vorgathi Council, Audiobook. It was 1,700 pages long, and it said, essentially, the same thing over and over. Humanity is unpredictable. Humanity is dangerous. Humanity cannot be conquered through conventional means. Humanity will adapt to anything you throw at them, and they will do it faster than you can prepare your next attack. The Council accepted the report. They also accepted my recommendation. Sarah's system was declared a permanent exclusion zone. Any Vorgathi ship that entered human space would be fired upon by our own fleet. It was the first time in our history we had ever declared another species too dangerous to engage. Word spread. Other species heard what happened to the Kashari. They heard what happened to us. They stayed away. Earth became known throughout the galaxy as the planet of crazy, unpredictable warriors who fought with no honor, no predictability, and absolutely no fear. Species that had been conquering worlds for millennia suddenly decided maybe they didn't need that particular star system after all. 3 years after the Kashari defeat, I received a message. It was from Mira Kellsen herself. I don't know how she got my personal contact information, and I'm frankly too afraid to ask. The message was short. It said, "Hey Crix, thanks for the warning you sent the Kashari. Kellen told me about it. You're all right for a Vorgathi? If you're ever near Earth, stop by. I'll buy you a coffee. Fair warning though, it tastes like burnt dirt and regret, but it grows on you. Also, tell your council we're not interested in conquering anyone. We've got enough problems managing our own planet, but if anyone else decides to invade, well, we've been working on some new ideas. Really fun ideas. I think you'd hate them. Take care, Mira." I never responded. What would I even say? 5 years later, the Vorgathi Empire collapsed. Not because of humans. We managed that all on our own through political infighting and economic mismanagement. When it fell apart, several of our former colonies reached out to Earth asking for protection. Earth agreed. But on one condition: no empires, no conquering, just mutual defense and trade agreements. Most species accepted. Those that didn't, well, they don't exist anymore. Not because Earth destroyed them, because they tried to fill the power vacuum left by the Vorgathi, and made the mistake of threatening Earth's new allies. Mira Kellsen is now Grand Admiral of the Terran Defense Coalition. She commands a fleet of 3,000 ships crewed by dozens of different species. They call themselves the Irregulars. They have no standard tactics, no unified doctrine, horror, theses, horror. Every captain is encouraged to be as creative and unpredictable as possible. They have never lost a battle. I retired from the Vorgathi military shortly after the Empire fell.
I now live on a small colony world and spend my days writing.
My first book was titled The Day We Met Humanity. It's a bestseller on 47 worlds. The Kashari banned it. Too embarrassing, apparently. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we had approached Earth differently, if we had offered friendship instead of demanding surrender, if we had respected them instead of underestimating them. But then I remember the look on Thax's face when Mira Kellsen destroyed 7 of our ships with a cobbled-together destroyer and a lot of attitude.
Hey!
I remember Admiral Thren's voice when he realized he had been tricked. I remember every moment of arrogant certainty we had before we met the humans. We thought we were superior. We thought we were unstoppable. We thought that our 1,000 years of military tradition meant something. Mira Kellsen taught us otherwise. She did it with recycled mining charges, homemade EMPs, harpoons, thermite glitter, and coffee. So much coffee. The Vorgathi Empire is gone now. The Kashari Dominion is a shadow of what it was. Dozens of other species that thought they could challenge humanity learned the same lesson we did. You do not underestimate humans. Ever. Especially not the ones who fly broken ships, laugh during combat, and treat warfare like it's some kind of entertaining puzzle to solve. We underestimated her because she was human. She's why we no longer exist. And honestly, we deserved it. Last week I received another message from Mira.
It said,
Heard about your book. It's pretty good. A few factual errors though. I didn't destroy 7 of your ships during that first battle. I destroyed 8. You guys forgot about the scout vessel that tried to run. Nobody ever remembers the scout vessel. Anyway, the offer for coffee still stands. We've got a new blend. It tastes slightly less like regret now. Mostly. Take care, Crix. And thanks for writing the truth. Not many people do that anymore. Mira, I'm thinking about taking her up on that offer. Not for the coffee. I still think that substance is disgusting. But because I want to ask her one question. Just one. How did you do it? How did one human woman with no formal training defeat 2 of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy? I think I know what she'll say. She'll probably shrug, take a sip of that awful coffee and say something like, I just made it up as I went along. Worked out pretty well, don't you think? And that, more than anything else, is why humanity is terrifying. They don't just adapt to challenges. They don't just overcome obstacles. They turn everything into a game and they refuse to lose. The galaxy is better off with them as friends rather than enemies. Those of us who learned that lesson survived. Those who didn't, well, they're the reason Mira Kellsen is now the most feared name in known space. And she's still just getting started.